Worship music is designed to manipulate you. And even if it's not purposeful, it still has that effect. The best comparison, of course, is concerts and music in general, that we can achieve these states without having to go to church and being involved, that it's just working off human psychology. My personal example, I remember that I always got goosebumps in worship service, even from a very young age. And yes. And of course you're told the Spirit is here today. I feel it. And sometimes it's not, but I guess, some Sundays are more magical than others. And, again, like you enter in, like there's these terminologies, like entering in during worship and stuff. Yes. And then 5th grade, I've got my first girlfriend. I'm a little romantic at heart. I hear Back at One by Brian McKnight on the radio. Yes. I go and I buy that CD. It was my first CD, actually. And I'm listening to it alone in my room, thinking about Jennifer, my girlfriend. And I'm overcome with like little 5th grade emotion of love. And I get the chills and I get the goosebumps and I get all of it. And I thought like, oh, this is exactly what happens at church. And of course it didn't mean anything to me then. Interesting fact to me, nothing else. But it so clear looking back to me now, how much this happens to everybody and we misattribute the psychology to God. Yes. So I kind of stole your thunder on this one. No. But you have more here to fill in. So let's hear your side.
Well, I wanted to piggyback on that for a while, just that for a little bit, because that happens a lot, right? Because it is a very common experience. It's a human response. It's a human reaction. It's biological, neurological, psychological, and sociological. But what happens is sometimes, because you gave an example when you were still in school, but there are adults who have that same type of situation. And so you have someone who's deeply ingrained into this type of ideology. And if they're at home and they listen to this song and they have this experience at home, listening to this love song while thinking about Jennifer, some of them might make the leap of, because that was a sign of God at church, this is now a sign from God now. And Jennifer's supposed to be my wife. And God just let me know. And cause, I saw that happen. I saw that happen a lot. But I appreciate you saying, like, many times it's not intentional. Very much, I like to use the faith healers, for example, because I was one for a while. Many faith healers are not purposefully trying to scam anybody. Many of them are just convinced that something is happening, as the members are, because again, they were indoctrinated the same way. They are victims of the same indoctrination. And so even for me, there were certain things that I was convinced God was doing because of the reaction. So, for example, I've been watching healing evangelists, pretty much ever since I've been saved. And when they pray for people, it's really aggressive. It's really performative. They do a lot of moving. It's very animated. And so they're praying for you. They're going to hold your head. They push your shoulders a little bit, raise your hands, raise them high, hit your hands. What you'll begin to notice is there's a pattern that if you have a physical ailment, the more they hit you. Now, they don't know they're doing this to create a distraction in your mind from the pain that you came up here for. They're doing this because this is the appropriate way to walk in the anointing. This is the appropriate way to walk in authority. This is how my mentor did it. And so somebody comes up and you say, hey, who's experiencing back pain? I got back pain right now. Come up here. The glory of the Lord is already over you. And see, now what I may not have understood then, that person is immediately going to be having an emotional response at that moment, because I've just created this stage where I've told them that the most important person in their life, their God, has set aside this moment just for them. And this is likely the thing that they've been praying about for a very long time. And so there's this finally my turn moment, this overwhelming amount of emotions. Now the pastor who's doing this, he doesn't know anything about that. He just knows this person is responding. The music is going really well, and he sees that person crying. In his mind, this is evidence that God is on him. So he's going to start saying that. That's going to reinforce that for the person more. And then he's going to start hitting those hands, hitting those shoulders, and he's going to ask the question, do you feel that back pain? And that believer is he's going to honestly check. And the pastor is honestly asking. And the believer is going to say, I don't feel the back pain. No, of course you don't, because I've been hitting you all over your body. So your mind doesn't know what to focus on. But I don't know that. You don't know that. We're both convinced that it's a miracle. So I said that to say this is the way the music goes. Music ministry was very important to me. This is one of the reasons why I'm like, I don't want to say I hate it, but it breaks my heart that religious superstition has prevailed for so long, because I wish more psychologists, neurologists, and social scientists had access to these services, to these moments, because there's so much that we've learned about our biology and our neurology and ways that we're almost able to hack our own emotions, hack our own experiences, because that's what we're doing in church. The longer you're in music ministry, eventually you'll start saying words like, we're creating the atmosphere, we're setting the atmosphere. And that's literally what we are doing. The problem is we're so disconnected from it, disconnected from the cause and effect, is that we're absolutely doing some amazingly magical things, but we don't know what we're doing. We don't know how we're doing it. We don't know why we're doing it. And the most damaging thing out of that whole thing is not that it's happening. It's actually, that's probably the healthiest part of any church service, is that moment. You get those endorphins released. You're building your immune system. There's so much good things that are happening in that moment. The most damaging thing that happens is when a person sincerely asks, why am I feeling this? And you tell them it's God. That's the damaging part, because you've now completely disconnected this person from the knowledge of how their selves operate, you know? And honestly, that's useful information for me. Like I grew up with very bad depression and anxiety, and I always felt great in worship. If I would have known that this isn't God that's doing this, this is just the power of people being together. And sharing in this art form, then I wouldn't have spent so many nights crying out, wondering why I wasn't feeling that same presence at home.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
because then you're told, like, oh, even if you're not specifically told, it is impressed upon you that if you feel something at church that is now associated with God, that doesn't happen for you most of the rest of the week. You might be able to conjure it up if you do enough of the right things, but it usually doesn't happen in your quiet time just by yourself that it does to the extent in worship with the rhythm and the chanting and the chord progression, etc. Yes. And you then become the problem. Yep. What am I doing wrong? What secret sin is in my life? What changed even from Sunday? Like the amount of lunacy that it leads to, and of course, like the feedback loops to make you more anxious and more depressed. You're right. It is only the reinforcement, the misattribution of what the psychology is happening that makes it harmful. Otherwise, and maybe this is something you do as you try to create these secular community groups, is still let people have the experience.
Yes.
Because it is beneficial, but it's just under the right pretenses.
Yep.
I would assume.
And that actually is a passion of mine, because it's beneficial for communities, it's beneficial for individuals, but then there's another like just hidden aspect that we don't often think about when we think about the church. But the church has created opportunities for people to do the things that they love in ways that they wouldn't have had those opportunities elsewhere. Yeah. And so for me as a musician, if there weren't churches that had pianos, especially as someone who grew up in poverty, I would have never been able to learn how to play. I would have never got introduced to music the way that I did. Christianity, religion itself, it's because it's built off of communities, built on the back of communities, it's also an opportunity creator. And that's something that we can definitely learn from in the secular community, because we have hobbyists in our community just like anybody else do. And many of those people are robbed of experiences. And so that's when I think of my days in church, I think of how many people who loved children who would have never had an opportunity to, impact children if it wasn't for being able to volunteer in children's church, or how many people loved music. And many of them today that's their living. Their living is making music in the communities that they care about. And, I do advise the secular community that those opportunities we're overlooking. And so I do now. I don't do it often, but every now and then I'll break out my piano on our lives and do a little song that I've written, because I realized that even as a worship pastor, God's attention was somebody who I could never get. So I was always judging the success of a worship service by the people. Sure. And so I eventually began realizing that, I wasn't passionate about singing love songs to God. I was passionate about creating experiences for people that made them feel better about themselves. And that's something I still love to do. And I'm looking forward to the day where I can do it with a group again. If there's anything I miss, it's that, like especially like when I pastored, because I still did music with my team when I pastored, and our music was dope, and we had fun times. Like, it was amazing. It was the awesome. Least churchy part of our services.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so true. The lack of opportunity. And I hope that people who are listening are hearing. I think it would be easy to get on and have a conversation about church and talk about the pastors that get up to manipulate because they want to get rich, and the pedophiles that get into it because they have access to kids. There are so many pastors, like you mentioned, that really believe it. There are so many healers and worship leaders that actually think what they're doing is beneficial. There are so many people that actually love kids in a healthy way, and they have access to being able to influence people and help raise them. Again, like, we would see the downside of the indoctrination that's happening there, but it's not all of those side cases. Like, there are so many good people that church provides the outlet for the good, supposedly. But if there's so much downside and so much byproduct of harm, yes, creating the communities in lieu of that still provide for that. Perfect. I love it so much. I wanted to personally thank my top tiers of support: my Iconoclast, Ann, Boris, Chris, Grant, GVI, Jimmy, Joe, Kitboga, the Kitboga, Matthew, Perry, and Shawn. My Humanist heroes: Chris, Craig, James, Jarrod, and Kristi. My Atheist advocates: Aquitar, Caleb, Dakota, Dan, Drew, Jeff, Jeffrey, Jeremy, Jugs, Julie, Malcom, Paul, Sparky, and Thomas, as well as all of my secular scholar patrons. Would you consider joining these fine people?